Hello, Griffin Nation. This is Greg Gornick, Director of Athletic Communications here at Chestnut Hill College. And with the 10th pick in the fourth round of the 2021 NLL lacrosse draft, the Buffalo Bandits selected Carson Reese from Chestnut Hill College. Carson, thanks you for joining us this evening. We also have head men's lacrosse coach Mike Terranova on this conversation, and we're happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We just wanted to bring you on and share, obviously, first that great news that you were drafted to the National Lacrosse League, but also dive a little bit deeper into how you got to that point and what work went into that, both physical and mental, and all the prep that you had to do to get from the CACC championship to getting selected by the Buffalo Bandits. So we have a couple questions here that we'd like to ask you. Coach and I are gonna go back and forth, and we'll just have a nice conversation and get to know a little bit more about your process and how one gets to be a professional athlete, because that's a great, tremendous step that I'm sure a lot of our student athletes here at Chestnut Hill College would love to do. So maybe this little discussion can give them a further insight on how that all happens and on how they get from point A to point B. So without further ado, I guess we'll start off with the obvious question. How does it feel to be selected in the 2021 NLL draft?
Well, it's obviously an honor and something I've worked my whole life for, but also it's the easiest process of the draft because getting picked is the easy part. It's everything after that that's going to be the hardest thing to do. But I mean, working my whole life to get to this point, all the training, all the dedication since I was like 5 years old has paid off, and it's just an honor to be able to given the opportunity to try out for a team.
Yeah, I can imagine you probably dreamed about that day for years, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and so let's focus a little bit more on the life journey that was following the championship. So give us a little bit of insight on the physical prep. Any workouts you might have had for the league. We know it was a virtual draft this year, which is a little bit of a different experience, right? And in recruitment, how did teams approach you? How did you keep in communication with some of the teams that were interested in drafting you? So kind of walk us along that path from the CACC championship to draft day.
So after the championship, I obviously took some time to celebrate, and I also took about a week and a bit off to give my body a rest because that season was a lot. And then after that, it was just they haven't really given me any training or anything. It's just you're an athlete, you have to do it on your own kind of thing, and you send them your run times and that kind of stuff. But I've been going to the gym 4 days at least every week, and then running and going to the field on the side because there's no boxes in Buffalo that I've found yet. So, and then regarding like the draft, no one really reached out to me. Usually they only reach out to like the first 2 rounds.
Okay.
So then no one really reached out to me. So I had no clue where I would go, who even would be thinking about needing me, because obviously every team's different with the needs of their players, offensively, defensively. But it's an honor to go to Buffalo because they have very talented players. I'm sure Coach T knows about every single name on that team. So it's and also the righty position is one of the hardest spots on offense. So it's going to be a hard challenge, but just getting the opportunity to even make practicing with them is just an honor.
Carson, I know you were kind of watching, waiting, and hoping to like hear from people, and then we heard from the NLL maybe before you had maybe a talk with Rochester, right? Or even had dinner with somebody from there, and you thought that they were the ones who might take you in a later round, and then Buffalo snatched you up. So how did that go about?
Yeah, so Rochester was kind of just like happened. I moved to Buffalo. They heard I moved here because my brother's on that team, and they wanted to meet me for dinner. So I went and met them for dinner. It went well. They were planning on picking me up, and I guess they talked to Buffalo. I had no clue. They talked to Buffalo, and I guess they were going to get me in the earlier round. So then they didn't trade up for me or anything because that's pretty late in the draft. But I guess they knew I was going to Buffalo before me, so it's pretty pretty crazy. But it was a good dinner. I saw the facilities and everything of Rochester, so it's cool to at least be able to do that.
Nice. Obviously, COVID put a wicked spin on a lot of athletics last year, and still to this day affecting how we operate in the athletic realm. How did returning to Chestnut Hill for the 2021 season help or hurt you draft wise?
Well, I think canceling this season with COVID is the one that hurt me because I was on a season for record breaking, like for myself, even that was one of my best years at Chestnut Hill. So that definitely would have helped me a lot in this draft, that having that year, as well as I didn't take my COVID year. I took my actual redshirt year. So then having both of those, like this past year and that COVID year, would have been even better. Probably would have got my name out there more. But I think just having this past season and doing not my best, but I did well, I think really helped me get my name back out there. So
Carson,
that's
you were an All-American and you won Conference Player of the Year. I think you did pretty good.
Yeah, I know, but I held myself to a pretty high standard. So but yeah, I think definitely coming back for that year helped me get my name back out there because COVID, they didn't really know. One was really focusing on players or listening to anything. Obviously, if I just went straight to the draft after that, it would have just been, my name probably wouldn't even be on the draft pick. So
yeah, so coming back for that extra year of play kept you relevant.
Yeah, exactly.
And you were off to quite an impressive start in 2020, right before the shutdown.
Yeah, that was probably my best season so far at the start. So
Carson, there was no NLL season in last year, right? So
no,
did they still draft last year?
Yeah.
So okay. So it didn't result, I guess, did COVID affect other guys being in this year's draft that weren't supposed to be because they went back to school, or how did any of that play out?
So the guys that took the COVID year could get drafted. I don't know if I could have got drafted or not, but I didn't. So I didn't know. I don't think I was because I would have been a free agent now. So then I got drafted in this one. So I think the guys that took the COVID year could get drafted, but they wouldn't have played in the season because they're still
right. They would have just been, their rights would have been with whatever team that picked them.
Yeah, but this is going to be the hardest year to make a team because there's those two draft classes that don't have a roster spot yet. So then you're fighting with two drafts basically for a starting spot, and they only carry 5 offensive righties max. So
and one of them's Tehoka Nanticoke.
Yeah, but
right.
He's not even the biggest name on there.
He's not. Yeah, true. I'm just saying from draft day, he was one of the. Yeah.
He actually not reached out, but I got the follow from him, so that was pretty cool. That's someone I've watched for a while now. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Well, Coach Terranova kind of filled me in on some of the story as how you got recruited to Chestnut Hill. At the time, the head coach was Brian Doherty.
Mm-hmm.
And can you give us a little bit insight on how you got recruited to come play lacrosse at Chestnut Hill? How did that happen?
It was kind of very random. I was verbally committed already to a different school in Carolina, and I didn't really want to go all the way to Carolina. And then I was out with my friends. It was the summer, and Coach Doherty called me. I answered. I had no clue who it was. I thought it was spam, and I started talking to him then because I knew Tanner Fisher, who I guess connected me with Coach Doc.
Okay.
And so I talked to him, and I liked the idea of the small school because in high school my grades weren't as good as they were in college. So the small school, small classes, like I think it's like 11 kids to one professor or something like that. But that really appealed to me because not having good grades, obviously I wanted the focus from the professor more so than a massive school with 200 students in a classroom. So, and obviously with scholarship and all that, I couldn't say no, and I'm glad I did because Philly was great, a lot more fun than Carolina would have been. So
I'm glad you enjoyed Philadelphia.
Oh yeah,
but you're gonna enjoy Buffalo too, I think.
I already am. It's all the food is amazing.
Yeah. Coach and I can both attest to that.
Yeah.
Speaking of food, because maybe this is one of the things you miss. What do you miss most about Chestnut Hill?
Food wise?
Oh no, just in general. I was
just in general. Okay.
Go down the food route and say a cheesesteak or something, but
Well, I obviously miss Manayunk and because I have some good memories there with the team and all that, but mainly just all the guys and Coach T and all the coaches and all that. It's mainly they're the ones that made Philadelphia so much fun, like having the opportunity to go to school there and going out with the guys and all that. I didn't really go in the city much, but it was definitely great to be there. And I definitely miss the team the most. Obviously, Scott and my good friends I haven't seen in a while, so
The 2021 CACC's championship was a huge win for everyone here at Chestnut Hill. Um, what were some of your emotions following that championship? I know there was a lot leading up to that. CACC is a new conference, so there isn't much men's lacrosse history there. So what was that journey like? It's been a 3-year journey, right, to get that championship?
yeah. Well, definitely playing in one championship and sitting on the sideline for the other that we lost was the hardest thing for me. And I don't think we should have lost any of those. So coming back and finally getting the win that we did, making a statement, showing everyone the team that we were, and all the work we put in those 3 years was leading up to that point. So I think we just had the right team, the right mentality, and everyone was hungry for a win. So I think that's just what led us to that great win we had in the finals. But it was mainly just sharing it with the people that we did. Like everyone on that team deserved that win. And it's not just certain players, even the guys on the sideline, everyone cooperated that year. And it was a tough year with COVID and everything. It's just good to get out with a win.
So, kind of going along with that championship, were were a bunch of accolades that came your way. I know you got an academic award as an academic All-American award as well. But what was it like to be named the CACC Player of the Year and to be named the US ILA Dynamic D2 All-American?
Definitely not something I would have thought I could have achieved freshman year, and just being able to achieve those, even though it wasn't first team or anything, like being even listed on that All American is just an honor for all of D2. And especially coming from like Chestnut Hill, a smaller school, it's nice to get on that list because sometimes they get overlooked, the players on those teams, because of the schedules and all that stuff. But I think it was just all my hard work was finally paying off, and my training, and not all for nothing, but if I didn't get any awards, it would have been a lot worse. Like I would have felt pretty bad that I'd put in all that work. But I mean, just getting the awards is an honor. So.
And how did it feel? I mean, you had a couple teammates who were All-Americans too. So how did it feel to kind of share that honor with a couple other guys on your team?
It was awesome. I like the fact that other people got it because they worked just as hard as me, and the reason I'm even on that list is because of most of those players. So, I mean, my teammates definitely pushed me to be the player I am, and the fact that they got on that list too was just awesome. Like I was so happy for them, more so than myself. So.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to follow that up with this question since we got him in the room. How did Coach Terranova, help prepare you for all that? We're the man behind the man, so to speak.
Well, definitely discipline, like mentally and physically pushed me, and then also putting me in a leadership role, I think really helped me in that scenario, because then I had to make lift other people up, and then they would lift me up, and it was just like a whole process. And Coach T really emphasized like teamwork, hard work, and putting everything on the field. And I think that I did all that, and I listened to him. I trusted his process, and that got me to the point where I was at the end of the year, but same as a lot of those guys.
Coach, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to like meeting Carson for the first time and him being like, not too outgoing, not, just kind of doing what he's supposed to do. And from where he was coming from, even in high school, like you said, he wasn't like a great high school student. I heard he was talented, and I didn't get he wasn't like an easy person to get to know right away because it took some time. And but after some time together, you realize like how the depth of his commitment and dependability and like all that stuff came through. And then, after a couple of years together, it was like ready to hand Carson the keys to, not just the offense, but in many ways the team, just like of being a guy who, he was so comfortable in it with his own play. Then he started looking outside himself, and like how much a word from Carson to a younger guy, or a guy that just made a mistake, or even just a little guidance or a little coaching from Carson. I mean, if you go back and watch A couple weekends ago, I watched like the playoff games, and I watched Carson, whether it's in the blowout in the semifinals or in the championship game, grabbing guys after plays, and like I don't know what he's saying to him, but he's connecting with them in those moments. You know what I mean? Again, it doesn't matter if we're up by 15. He's like out there engaged and trying to get us to be our best. Or we're in a championship game and he's, quietly going for 5 or 6 points or whatever in a championship game, but he's a calming presence too, so
And I
yeah, I was lucky, and I agree with Carson. I mean, if you don't break your foot or have that fracture in 2018, right? Like, but if everything happens for a reason, and so that one in 2021 felt that much better because we didn't like it. We hung one in 2018. Maybe everything doesn't go the way that it does. Who knows? But yeah, that was a big chip on everybody's shoulder. I woke up that morning knowing that because of guys like you and Scott and and all those other guys who had 4 years at Chestnut Hill and had lost a couple, I was like, there's no way we lose today. There's no chance.
And I can say from a statistician standpoint, I noticed that the assist numbers definitely went up in the past year.
Yeah.
Right?
When I was Coach T putting me in a different role than my first year. So my first year I was playing midfield, and then I got switched to attack, and we ran different plays where my passing was more on display than past years. So I think it really helped me and other teammates get in the rhythm of scoring and moving the ball. And
absolutely, that extra balance, that extra, they can't just focus on Carson Reese anymore.
Well, they had to focus on you, because if they didn't, you were going to score. And then when teams concentrated on you, you hit the open man. So it was like a very, a great player just being fundamentally sound to just make the right lacrosse play.
And
I think of all the times. Go ahead.
They'd lock me off, and then Ben and Scott would have 5 goal games. It was
right. In the first encounter with Wilmington, they face guarded him, right? They didn't want him touching the ball. So Carson, quietly moved off ball and did what he needed to do. And then in the championship game, they tried something a little similar, but because Ben basically said, you're going to have to slide to me, then Carson starts getting loose. But he makes the right lacrosse play. Like, he's our points leader without, I don't know that, you probably could count the number of shots on like one hand that you took when we might be like, why the heck did he shoot that? Because even in transition, like at times, Carson probably could have shot the ball and he's going to hit the open man, even if it's PJ. Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a step outside lacrosse and reflect on some other stuff from your days at Chestnut Hill. How did Chestnut Hill prepare you for a career in business and accounting? That was your major here, right?
Yeah, well, I had 2 majors. So one was accounting and then business administration and management. So obviously providing me with 2 degrees definitely helped me once I left school. But definitely the small classes, like the intimacy with the professor, you learn easier. Well, I did anyhow. And I also went in undeclared, so I kind of got every class. So it definitely made my process a lot harder. But I mean, I think it gave me more of a background being a liberal arts school and all that, and taking all the classes I did. But I think they've definitely set me up good. Like Mr. Flower was a great accounting professor who today I use everything he taught me in my job, as my role right now as a property accountant. So it's nice to know that he did that for me, and I still stay in touch with him. So just building up my relationships with these professors because of the small classroom size definitely helped me in my professional career as well.
And is that where you see yourself professionally as well in the future in the real estate field?
Definitely real estate for myself. I don't know if that'll be my career or more on the side, but also I was thinking about getting my CPA, so that's obviously an accounting option or something with finance. I still haven't fully focused in on that yet, but
got some other things on the table, right?
Yeah, I got a lot going on.
Awesome. Well, transitioning back to what is going on with you today, now that you've been drafted, what's the next steps for you as a professional? As far as what do the Bandits have scheduled for you to go and do?
Yeah, so every Monday we got to send our run times, and I think right now it's just 5K every week, every Monday we got to send them, but that's on top of your training that you're supposed to be doing on your own. And it's kind of putting you in your own hands kind of thing. They said if you need training, you can email this person, this person, this person, but I think they're really making you dedicate yourself to the team more so and just relying on you to train the way you do to be prepared for the season. And then in October, we have about a month and a half long training camp where I think it's just practices, scrimmages, workouts, like testing, all that stuff.
And the season
So,
begins in December?
yep, December. I don't know. I think it's either the 12th or 20 something.
I think the opening weekend, they're making a big deal about opening weekend. I want to say it might be December 4th, but it might be that next one, the 11th and 12th, like you were saying.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like a really long training camp. Obviously I haven't had the scoop inside of all this, but I mean, it's like every week is a training camp and they don't practice as much as college, but it's going to be very intense. They're 2 hour long practices.
Excellent. Well, have you thought about you had an opportunity to play for Coach Terranova here at Chestnut Hill. What are your thoughts on playing for the National Lacrosse League Hall of Famer John Tavares?
I mean, just even if I don't make the team, just being in practice with him, getting his knowledge that he's gained over the past years, and just meeting someone like that is just tremendous because you've heard of it, you've seen him play, and just him coaching me in general is going to be great for me as a player.
Excellent. What do you see this season looking like for yourself and for the Bandits? I mean, you've seen the team a little bit. I mean,
Well, the Bandits offense, the team as a whole is very good. So I think they're going to have a great season. Plus, they've picked up a lot of good players the past two drafts. So it's going to be a very deep team. And even if I am just a practice player for the first year, whatever happens, I think it's just going to be awesome to see the team because they're obviously going to be good this year. But so is most teams with the two draft classes coming into play. So I think it's going to be like one of the most competitive years that the National Lacrosse League has had. So, and I think the Bandits are going to be on top. So,
excellent. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Carson, do you have any advice for the current players, or guys that, are going to end up at Chestnut Hill in the future on how to best take advantage of their time? What's the best, if there's anything you learned from going from being 17 to 21 or 22 by the time you were done? What advice would you send back to the guys that are still here wearing the uniform and the kids who are about to come out of high school and want to play college?
Well, first, obviously, is the dedication to school and your team, and focusing on school and balancing the lacrosse with it is definitely difficult. So I think learning how to do that early on will definitely help you throughout the years. And if they're coming to Chestnut Hill, trusting your process and the way you do things, so it might be a lot of adjusting for some people, but in the end, it really helps the discipline and toughness it takes to succeed as like a college athlete. And obviously, training outside of lacrosse and studying extra outside of the classroom will be a very, very beneficial thing to do. Like wall ball, like running, going to the field with your friends, just meeting the team, and not really stressing out about it as much. I think because my first year I was so worried about school, I kind of didn't really focus on lacrosse as much. But I think if you can balance those two, it's definitely a lot easier. And even using the resources at the school will help you a lot, like tutoring and counseling, anything that'll help you to balance the two and focus on your schooling is definitely the most important thing.
That's some good advice for future Griffins. Excellent. Thank you, Carson. Well, that wraps up our conversation for this evening. And once again, Carson, I'd like to thank you for joining us, and I'd like to congratulate you on this accomplishment and wish you the best in the months to come. And hopefully, come December, there'll be a Chestnut Hill College men's lacrosse viewing party or
Yeah.
maybe a team trip or something out to Buffalo to get some eyes on you, or if you're down here visiting, Philly for a game, we can hopefully maybe get some chance to watch you in action here in Philly too.
Hopefully.